Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys and a Stack of Comics. My name is Reed. Along with me, as always, is Mike. Mike, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Reed. Look, I got Infantino and Kirby originals, not originals, but sitting right there.
Now,
That
some
always makes me
classics
smile. We
right
can see
there.
those two side by side, right?
Now, two of the all-time greats. Part of the reason we have this hobby still is the work of those two gentlemen, for sure.
I know. It's awesome.
Old school artists who produced a lot of great artwork, and always cool to see those, especially because a lot of those you can kind of see the pencil work and what they're doing. Kind of leads us to a controversial topic that's been popping up as of late, and this has been through DC Comics mainly. And Marvel hasn't been included in it yet, but there has been talk of the potential use of AI art inside of comic books. And a lot of this blew up around the recent issues of Batman, which, of course, is going to generate, because that's DC's and probably comics' best selling comic book. The artist in question that was brought up was Andrea Sorrentino. I have to say, he's one of my personal favorites. He did a fantastic run on Old Man Logan, one of my favorite books of the last kind of decade that they did. They brought that character back. I thought it was really good. He did a great run in Green Arrow. And I'll be honest, I was incredibly excited to see him working on Batman because I do not recall him being on Batman before. I will say, I read the issues. Something seemed 10% off, but I thought maybe he was just going for a more photorealistic take on it. And I kind of read them and was like, that seemed a little weird, but I didn't really walk away from it and going, man, something's like way off. Now, I know that's bugged other people way more than it has. And I'll kind of show one of the panels or a couple of them here that people are questioning. Hope we can kind of see that well enough. There's this one here where they say it kind of looks like someone AI generated art of kind of Ben Affleck's Batman in there. And I have to say, it looks pretty close to that now that someone puts it in there.
It's a pretty cool looking panel, though. You got to admit,
Yeah.
Batman on the horse.
You got this one as well of Catwoman and Batman, where she's kind of got the longer white hair. Now, I think in the story it takes place in the future, so I just kind of associated the white hair with it's 20 years in the future. She's a little older. She's let her hair grown out. There's also been a lot of controversy around stuff like this picture of the Joker, where there's people who've examined it really well and said that his human anatomy just looks a little bit off, kind of make mistakes that artists wouldn't normally make. And for those who haven't seen Sorrentino before, I mean, he normally does incredibly detailed art that's a little kind of visceral and things like that. I mean, you've got this is kind of one of his works from Old Man Logan. And so it does definitely look different than Sorrentino's regular art for sure. But there's artists who can evolve and do different things. DC has said they are investigating it from what we've understood. I don't know if they've issued an official one, but I think they said they're going to look into those sort of things. And so I don't know. I'm gonna be 100%. I do not know if he was or wasn't. And I'll be honest, as a reader, it never really like crossed my mind. But the use of AI generated art, Mike, in your opinion, what do you feel if you would find out that some of these comics are using AI generated art?
Well,
What would
one, it
your opinion
makes me
be?
question the process a little bit because, okay, like in the old days when Carmine and Jack finished their artwork, their pencils, they either were in the office and sent them over to the inkers
Hmm.
by hand, or they had a courier, or they, sent them in, from wherever they were, like in the Bronx or whatever, and sent them downtown to Manhattan to be inked and then processed and made into comic books. So you could actually see the pencil,
Hmm.
you know, and like it was real artwork. So like I don't even know how these are being produced anymore. Like, how does a guy not send in a picture where the editor and somehow in the mechanical process, are they just uploading it online? They must be uploading it online.
Yeah.
So like I guess they figure that that $10,000 scanner they set up in his apartment that was a tabloid size or whatever for his work. He was putting down his own original work on the scanner, and then it's going to be produced. So I don't know how that got missed, but for someone who enjoys like a more illustrated style, I enjoy some of these books that are, and some of them just blow me away with these pictures.
Hmm.
So for deadline purposes, you know, I can understand if maybe an artist, had to do a panel or two that way just to meet a deadline, as
Yeah.
long as the artist was in control of what the AI did. What I have a problem with is like somebody who's not an artist, producing a comic. I have more of a problem with it.
If they're
Um,
stealing someone else's kind of
I
art.
I do kind of feel like it should be a disclaimer, but I could understand. I guess I'm going to have to understand in this new digital age that an artist could be artistic with the way he compiles and clicks enter on the commands to create the AI image. Who's to say that's not art in itself? I don't know. We're getting a little bit.
Yeah, it gets kind of murky. I think the weird thing is like I would have understood completely if they said, "Hey, it's like a deadline thing." Weird thing is the 3 issues in question this happened with, there's a co-artist on the book. So it's not even like he drew one because the story kind of bounces between a past and a future story. He's drawing the future story, someone else is drawing the past story. It's not like the issues are like 65 pages or anything. It's a standard 24, 25-page story with, your 8 or 9 pages of ads. Again, I'll say as a reader, I read it and I was like, that looks a little off for his art, but it didn't really bug me. Um, I
You know
have to
what's
say,
weird? What's weird is when you were showing like there's a program that can analyze it and say, yeah, there's a 90% chance this is AI
yeah,
because so and so typed in, Catwoman kissing Batman, and almost the identical image comes up in AI.
yeah.
And so then you start to wonder also if he looks like Affleck on one page and then looks like Keaton on the other.
Yeah, on this page, it looks a little more like the Michael Keaton-esque. I mean, and
I'm
so
like,
there's
oh no,
there's part
oh
of me, and
no.
again, I would love. I don't know if Sorrentino's addressed it. Um, I do not want to condemn, and so I want to make it very clear. I do
Hey,
not.
he's a great artist.
He's a
He's a
great
great
artist.
artist,
He is
hands
one of
down.
my favorite artists. I will say
Yeah.
the only disappointing thing is if it's. I mean, I'm of two minds on it. One, I do not want to condemn someone without actual factual evidence of being there. There's great articles on this. You guys can look those up if you'd like. For sure, that cite and say some of this looks AI generated. I'm trying to remember the guy's name who did a breakdown of it, and he's the guy who mainly kind of got the ball rolling as far as saying he thought it was AI art. There's generators people run stuff through, and I think they said a lot of the images looked about 90 something percent like they would probably be AI generated. I also don't want to say if Andrea Sorrentino did this and he's intentionally drawing Batman in different panels to look like the cinematic actors, then he did a heck of a job. So it's one of the things where I'm like, if he did do the art, it's really good. If he didn't, then I do feel a bit ripped off. What I will say is what does disappoint me is if this is AI generated. I'm gonna buy Batman regardless. But I was actually really, really excited that Sorrentino was going to be doing pencils on Batman, and that he has been one of my favorites as far as his Old Man Logan run, his Green Arrow run. And so if I wasn't someone who was like a 100% Batman every issue I'm going to buy, I could see someone being like, oh, cool, Sorrentino's doing the art. Let me buy it. And then you buy it and it's not even him. That's where I think there's a bigger issue in terms of part of what sells comic books is the creative teams. I think that's a huge issue that has got to be addressed within comic books as far as if AI art's ever going to get involved, that needs to be told immediately. They're like, yeah, it's not, Greg Capullo, it's not Dan Mora, it's an AI generation thing. And that, while I don't feel too disappointed with it, and again, I don't know that he did. I will say, if you told me, hey, Jim Lee's drawing a book, and all it was a book that's AI renderings that look like Jim Lee's, I'm probably going to buy any book Jim Lee does interiors up for. But if he's not actually doing it, man, I feel a bit ripped off. And so I think that's part of what they're going to need to address. And it's another thing that, like American comic books, like I don't know how, if this is AI art, how did DC let that happen on Batman? Like, I get it
Well,
happening on like a Z tier book. This is the big boy. This is the one that moves the whole line. Like,
and the thing about it is that Sorrentino can draw like, and if he didn't have time to do that panel, you kind of got to ask yourself like, how much better would that panel would have been if he actually did it?
yeah,
Because
That's a fair
like
point.
he probably would have done it better. But maybe if he was under a time crunch, he just hit
Well,
beep.
I think that's the hard part is like it's not like, and maybe Sorrentino's doing work I'm not picking up. I don't know what book he's on right now. I think that's where I was excited is the last time I saw him was Old Man Logan, really on that run. I know he does a lot of covers and maybe he does indie stuff. I don't know. I don't want to say he's not. It's just it's very weird you would hire an artist that a lot of people know, put him on a premier book like Batman, and then have this potential. And it's again, I will say, I
So
don't.
here's the other thing. What if it's not even true? This is terrible.
Yeah,
Like
no,
what
it's
if it's not even
terrible
true?
if
This
it's
is
not
awful.
true.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing is like I don't know whether it's true or not. I don't want to say and it doesn't change my opinion of Andrea Sorrentino one way or the other. He is a fantastic artist. But I think the biggest thing that happens with this, and it just leads to bigger issues within comic books. What are if this did slip through, what are the editors doing at DC? That's the big question I'd have is like, okay, we don't have the old school bullpen thing anymore where people all work together and the pencils get pushed over. So, like, if it's all digital, that should technically save time. What exactly are the especially because here's the other thing. If this was the Fire and Ice book or what's it, Speed Force, the spin-off manga style one they're doing with if this was a Z tier comic that was a 6-issue mini that you knew it's not going. This is Batman. This is the biggest book DC sells. This is your number one seller. This is the moneymaker. That she'd let it happen there. Like, if it is true, man, what is the editor doing? Because how do you get it published with that? Because I think the weird part is, and this is where I hope it's not true. If a random guy on Twitter can find this, run it through an AI generator, and go, hey, man, something's off, then certainly the editor whose job is to edit and review these books should be able to make that same judgment.
I just keep thinking, and we've been talking about this for a while. They're probably running on a skeleton crew. Like anybody that can get cut gets cut. If you can double up on work, you can double up on work. And you just kind of got to imagine that they're running lean as lean can be.
Yeah.
And, and maybe this is, a symptom of it
Possibly.
as well, you know? And it's like, maybe Sorensen said, well, if you're only going to pay me that, I might just give you half of it in AI.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I think the larger issue for me on this, and this is just generally across the board with comics, um, they've got to figure out some of these issues because you kind of see the American comic industry circling the drain a little bit. And then you have stuff like this happen, and it's like, guys, come on, you can't have this happen. It's kind of you and I have both worked at different companies. There's times where your department's in trouble. Like, oh man, we're fighting to save our job here. When that happens and you got to circle the wagons, the biggest thing that normally happens is, hey man, all of our work, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be pristine. Certainly, if it's something that the majority of like your supervisors are gonna see, right? If it's a project that maybe one or two folks are gonna see, hey, we'll take a risk and hope they don't catch that one. But if it's the big project, the one that there's a huge presentation on, the one that's going to get the most headlines no matter what happens, that one you're going to make sure is buttoned down. And that they would let it happen on Batman. And then the weird thing is that DC's like, we're looking into it is the other part that's weird to me. And that, like, I would have hoped it would have been like, no, this is absolutely categorically 100% false. We know it's false. It's junk. There's no need even to look into it. Instead that they're like, we're going to look into it. It's like, ah, that's
The problem
that's an
is that
intriguing response.
there may not be anybody at DC to look into it. Like everybody's busy because
Yeah.
everyone's doing 2 or 3 jobs.
And the big thing I'll say, I know we talk a lot about comic books and maybe they're running too lean. But the thing is, if you're running too lean, then you need less books. I think that's the biggest thing that DC's doing is
That's what we've always said. Like
if
just
you only got 2 editors to look over 20 books, you know what the solution to that is? You do less books because you clearly cannot. It's kind of, you and I have both worked kind of in the quality assurance world at different times at companies. If I'm looking at it and I'm expected to do 500 monitors of people's quality assurance stuff, and I only got 3 people to do it, and it's statistically impossible for me to finish that, the biggest thing I'm going to do rather than do 500 jobs poorly is I'm going to go to the supervisor and let I don't have enough. We cannot
We'll
do this.
do 4 for everybody
Yeah.
this month.
And if they come through and they tell me like, hey, no matter what, you got to get it done, then I'm probably going to cover myself in some way and be like, hey, look, we went to that. You're going to document that this
Yeah.
would happen if DC is running so lean that they can't even on their premiere books catch that like the art is not what we said it would be. That's a huge issue. But again, one thing I want to make very, very clear on this: we are not at all saying that we know for sure this actually happened. It's being looked into. It's been alleged. I do not want to sit here and say that, oh, the artist 100% used AI. He could have tried a different art style and it didn't work. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. It is just, it's another black eye that like DC Comics does not need. Because regardless what will happen on this, and what we'll try to do, if this does get cleared up, we will definitely do a video on that to say, hey, here was the resolution of it. But I think the biggest thing is like, there's a ton of people where they're just going to see the accusation and it's not going to matter.
Yeah, and I'm gonna err totally on the side of the artist here because those panels were amazing, and I will, for argument's sake, I'm gonna take Sorrentino's side and say, you know what, maybe the AI, his painting got into the ether somehow, and AI stole his work.
No, maybe he, and another thing, maybe he did his pencils and used AI to brush it up and then sent the finished image that was brushed up by him. I would love to see a full statement from everybody involved. One thing I'll make sure we do on here, though, like 100%, if this gets to a resolution one way or the other, we'll make sure we do an equal kind of video to that. And that I absolutely cannot stand when people call attention to a problem, but then when it gets resolved, they do not clear up the thing.
So
So
it's a big thing in the music industry too. It's like, can people just click a song and create a,
yep.
click a button and create a song, or what's it going to happen? Is it more prolific in the indie field? I haven't really looked into it. So, but it's coming. Like, somebody's going to click a button and have an indie comic out there that's all AI, and
Yeah.
people are going to love it because it looks cool, man.
No.
But the big deal is that breaks your heart for someone who loves artists. It's so hard to make a buck as an artist anyway, man.
Yeah, no, and we'll definitely next video we're probably going to look at is where we have seen a lot about compensation for creators, an issue that's been going on for a long time and has come up again in the modern.
So if you could be a comic book company and just do AI comics every month, like, how many artists are going to lose their job? I mean, that's frightening.
Yeah, absolutely. But let us know what you guys think below. Have you seen this controversy? What do you guys think about it? Would it affect your buying habits if that happened? As always, feel free to let us know what you think, and we hope you have a great day.